Hello and welcome to the Leader of the Opposition's coverage of the Budget 2024. I am Irvin Williams, and beside me is Mr. Elson Lowe, Economic Advisor to the Leader of the Opposition, and we'll be having a conversation on what is possibly going to be Guyana's first trillion-dollar budget, which is expected to benefit only the rich and famous, while it neglects the poor. Elson?
Hello to everyone out there looking at us. Today, we're going to be covering what is definitely going to be a budget that is expected to be larger than the previous year's budget. We're going to chat about what we anticipate. We're going to chat about what the opposition would prefer have been in the budget. And we're going to be giving viewers some sense of the scale and some sense of perspective regarding yet another large budget by the PUP. Marvin, what are your first thoughts coming out of the budget?
Well, looking at Budget 2023, it offers no hope. Budget 2023 offered salary increases which were below the rate of inflation in a budget that was 3 times the size of the budget last
in 2018
by the APNU+AFC in 2018. So this is clearly not a workers' government. This is clearly not a government that thinks that the working poor has a place and should be accorded the kind of respect and the living wage that they deserve.
Absolutely. And we would even want to point out to our viewers that when you add in the supplementals from last year, what you've seen is the government spending last year equivalent to 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014's budgets combined, a number very similar to that. And you have to ask yourself, have you gotten 5 years of budgets worth from last year, or is it that you haven't really seen your standard of living, your life improve substantially? We're going to see yet another large budget, but the question is there going to be any improvement, real improvement in people's lives? Of course, we believe that that's not going to be the case. Except for a few. One great example being that last year, as we said, huge budgets, including supplementals, over 900 billion, and public servants just get a measly 6.5%, not even 1% of that budget, while the inflation rate, according to the U.S. State Department, is 6.6%. Unbelievable.
Unfortunately, budgets in Guyana since 2020 have become not a tool for management and development of a country. In the case of Guyana, it has become a vehicle for corruption. We saw reports coming out from international financial agencies saying that more than 42% of every
41%, 41 cents for every dollar
that goes into public infrastructure disappears. And if half of the budget is public infrastructure,
well, there you go.
It means that a quarter of the budget disappears into a dark hole. And so we anticipate that budget 2024 will be no different. It would in fact be a larger vehicle for greater levels of corruption.
Absolutely. What we would be looking for in this budget is governance reforms to help us to deal with waste. But also, the thing is that if you're intent on committing corruption, then there won't be any reforms put forward. So what we would like to have seen is those types of reforms. We also will note that on the APNU+AFC, we began that process of reform, I believe, in 2018. And it's a process that the PUP has not taken seriously at all, leading to the IMF restating in 2022 that these recommendations, these reforms need to be put forward. Folks, all that means for you really is that money that could be in your pocket to help you to deal with the cost of living crisis, to ensure that you've got better healthcare, better schools, better roads, is just either being stolen or going by the wayside. That is again a concern with another large budget in the offing.
The food group, the inflation in the air, the food group is riding in the high double digits. And so as the cost of living continues to oppress the working class in this country, the government speaks of salaries and wages increase for public servants as something that will fuel inflation. This is a notion that has been debunked by economist Elson Lowe. economist Winston Jordan, economist Raul Lucas, among others.
Yeah.
And so it appears as though the government is finding every conceivable excuse to continue to put the working class in this country through undue hardships, while in fact the heavy emphasis on public infrastructure, some of them not necessary projects, are being emphasized. This is an area where a lot of money is being cut out, where it is believed that funding for the People's Progressive Party's political work is coming from. And for example, in the case of the Berbice Bridge that is being proposed and is likely to feature in this budget,
Yes, we'll see.
it comes, if it does, it will come at a time when the floating bridge across the Berbice River has not yet repaid its investors a decent rate of return. The National Insurance Fund still waits for its money from its ordinary shares. Hospitals are being built, regional hospitals to it, when there are hospitals that are not being maintained, that are not being
Staffed.
that are not being properly or adequately staffed.
Yeah.
You have cases where a nursing school is said to be on the cards for the Essequibo Coast, when the nursing school in Linden has been shut down because it is reported that Linden had too many nurses. So now, when there's a paucity of nurses in our system and the healthcare system is on virtual collapse, we have a situation where we have to endure this whole business of building a physical structure,
Yeah.
when the whole question of equipment, maintenance, and staffing are not being
A
addressed.
physical structure with nothing and no one inside. That is really the concern. We know the PPP has a legacy of white elephants, Skeldon being the biggest example of that kind of a failed major investment. That is something that we have raised with the IMF. These questions of poor investments, of a lack of proper feasibility studies, and so on. I'm looking forward to seeing the feasibility study regarding a new Berbice River Bridge. What would be obvious is if the government is looking to lower the rates at the Berbice River Bridge, they can just waive those rates and compensate the investors accordingly. So we're going to have to see what exactly the government says on that particular front. But really, it reflects a broader trend of a lack of planning, of really no kind of a long-term vision as to the direction that the country should be going. Folks, as we want to again remind you, last year's spending was equivalent almost to the spending of 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014 combined. We've seen the national budget triple in only a few years. Folks, has your standard of life improved to that extent? Has it tripled? Has it doubled? Has your standard of life substantially improved? Or is it that money is being spent, but money is not being spent on you?
The absence of focus of people development, the absence of the focus on people-oriented development is costing the People's Progressive Party. Many believe that the PPP's budget 2024 will be a budget in which there will be a lot of money for the boys, friends, families, and favorites, as the government continues to see its image damaged by its own mismanagement of our country's economy, and the chances of re-election grow dimmer by the day. And so many believe that this budget will really be a budget, an election budget. There's quite possibly going to be elections, regional and general, in 2024, and we anticipate that this budget is a precursor to those elections, notwithstanding what Bart Jagdeo has said, jumping ahead of President Ali, who has the sole authority for announcing election dates. Jagdeo has said that elections will be 2025 November. Many people do not believe that. Many people expect that Jagdeo's utterances had to do with an attempt to distract the focus of attention away from elections. And so this budget is likely going to be packed with goodies for friends, families, and favorites, while the working class in this country will continue to toil unrewarded.
Absolutely. We want to also indicate to viewers that this year, Guyana, when you adjust for prices, has got the 10th highest income per capita in the entire world. That really is an eye opener. We've gone ahead of the United Kingdom, the European Union average, and most countries in the world. So we're the 10th highest in terms of income per capita when you adjust for prices. What that says to me, and I'm sure that Mervyn feels the same, is that we need to be seeing people's standards of living lifted, and we need to see policies that will directly contribute to that. Now, some of the things we're proposing and we've put forward is increasing substantially the tax threshold, the establishment of a livable income of $150,000 per person. We know that they've mentioned a step-by-step approach to making the University of Guyana free. We believe that it should be free immediately. There should be no work requirements put on students. And more than that, that money should be put towards improving the university, providing it resources, giving it opportunity to conduct research, and really ensuring that university contributes as much as it can to Guyana's economic growth and development. So those are some of the things. We've got many more that we'll get into as the budget discussions roll on, and we'll see what it is exactly the PUP is going to put forward. Probably very incremental and small adjustments.
The parliamentary opposition has been calling repeatedly for a number of measures, some of which you've outlined. It is anticipated that while the People's Progressive Party ignored those calls on the floor of the National Assembly of the Parliament, while they ignored those calls in the media, while they ignored those calls from our press conferences, it is likely that, having regard to the recognition of the fact that they are losing ground by the moment, that they are likely to, in fact, implement some of those provisions. Obviously, the parliamentary opposition will be very happy to see some of those recommendations implemented. And when they are, if they are, we will point them out so that you, fellow citizens of this country, will become aware of who's really representing your cause, who has your best interests at heart, and which political entity in this country continues to champion the cause, particularly of the working class, but generally of all Guyanese across the spectrum. We'll be back with you shortly to continue this conversation. For now, we will take a break.